HD3 Detroit,
KJAQ,
HD3 Seattle,
WBMX,
HD3 Boston, and on AOL Radio and Yahoo Launchcast. Psychic Radio is now CBS Radio's The Sky. Back to Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno. Call now 248-545-SOUL. New skyradio.com. Believe.
What can the paranormal do for the human race? Will it ever be seen as truly normal? What would the implications be?
Hey there, and welcome to the 161st broadcast of Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno, and our Sunday edition on CBS New Sky Radio and www.newskyradio.com. I'm Ben, and asking those questions was my co-host and partner in the paranormal, my dad.
Okay, let's get right to our guest. This evening we welcome back Dr. Barry E. Taff with second appearance on the show, the first in this time slot and on these stations, though. Dr. Taff holds a doctorate in psychophysiology, is a world-renowned parapsychologist who worked as a research associate at UCLA's former parapsychology laboratory from 1969 through 1978. During his 4-decade career, Dr. Taff has investigated more than 4,000 cases of ghosts, hauntings, and poltergeists, and has conducted extensive, I was going to say expensive studies, but that too, extensive studies in telepathy and precognition, eventually developing the initial protocols and methodologies for what was later termed remote viewing. He was himself examined as a psychic subject, and the results published in the journal Behavioral Neuropsychiatry in 1974 and 1975. One of the cases Dr. Taff investigated in 1974 gained international fame as the book and 1983 movie The Entity, starring Barbara Hershey and Ron Silver. Dr. Taff served as technical advisor on the film as well as being portrayed by the character Gene Kraft. Dr. Taff has appeared on numerous national and international television and radio programs, including CBS News, Unsolved Mysteries, The Joan Rivers Show, A Current Affair, Hard Copy, NBC's The Other Side, Haunted History, Mysteries and Scandals, and many, many more. And I'm happy to say on Behind the Paranormal, too. He has consulted for government, business, and law enforcement, including the CIA, ONI, NSA, and many of those other places. He has worked on many Hollywood scripts and has written numerous articles for magazines and journals and has been featured in many books on paranormal subjects, ranging from precognition to UFOs. His own book, Aliens Above, Ghosts Below, Explorations of the Unknown, has just been released by Cosmic Pantheon Press. That's CosmicPantheon.com. One word, Cosmic Pantheon. Okay. Dr. Taff recently appeared on our New England Drive Time show, and we'd like to go a little deeper into the topic we started to cover on that show, and that is the paranormal and our future.
Dr. Taft, how do you see the paranormal leading us into the future?
Well, I think the best way to describe it from an open perspective, and by the way, thank you very much for having me on again. It's always a pleasure, is that we're looking a gift ghost in the mouth. Instead of trying to understand what's happening and how it's happening and why these things happen the way they do, we're saying, well, who is it and who's chasing me and what ghost, what demon and what entity and what monster? No. Based on my 41-year career in this field, things are showing up in the data, consistent things that are telling us a story far more complicated than we ever imagined, that the forces involved here, the forces we call psychokinesis, regarding poltergeist activity,
yep.
For example, that they seem to represent a force of nature that doesn't work the way the rest of the physical world does as we know it. Real simple. In the San Pedro case, 1989 to 1991 or two, we investigated this woman by the name of Jackie Hernandez in San Pedro, and it's a big chapter in the book. I think it's chapter 3, called The Hazardous Haunting, and the reason for that title is sort of bifurcated. One is it was very hazardous to one of our associates at the time, Jeff Wheatcraft, and also Jackie Hernandez's maiden name was Hazard, Hazard, and I thought, this is too good to be true. Well,
good old New England name.
Right. This case was sort of the cherry on top of the ice cream, basically, because we've seen this before, but whatever we're dealing with here repeatedly attacked Jeff. Now, Jeff's 6'2", about 200 pounds, and we saw him picked up like a rag doll and thrown on the wall like he weighed a milligram.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the forces of the universe we know of, there's There's electromagnetism, there's strong and weak nuclear forces, and there's gravity. There's some mixes like electroweak. But one thing they all have in common, when these forces produce enough, energies have enough behind them to do work in the real world, the byproduct of their work is heat. That's the second law of thermodynamics. Real simply, long before Jeff Wheatcraft would have been picked up and thrown on the wall like a rag doll, his clothing, everything in the room would have burst into flame by the liberated heat if it was based on any energy we know of. Everything in the universe we know of that does work, everything produces heat. Our bodies do when they move. We turn a light bulb on. We scratch the surface of the chair we're on. Friction. Everything produces heat except these forces. And in my book, I go into great detail in the third section. Actually, I go into in the second chapter, in the first section, on the entity case. I go into in the third chapter on the hazardous haunting case in San Pedro, and these are lengthy chapters with photographs that chronicle these incredible cases. And even another case, Chapter 7, an irreplaceable loss, the life and death of a poltergeist agent. But in the third section, Chapters 12, 13, 14, I really cut into this. And I basically say that there's a chance that this force can be harnessed, that we can access it. It appears that certain people, individuals who have very unique nervous systems, call them seizure-prone, epileptic, or even some forms of sleep disorders, makes them hypersensitive to certain environmental variables.
Temporal lobe stuff, you say?
Yeah,
all right.
Anyway, but it could be, for example, when a high percentage, almost all of the poltergeist agents I've investigated, suffer either seizure-prone or epileptic, or it's so subtle as having a sleep disorder. And then when they take their meds to stop the seizures, allowing them to rest, not only do the seizures stop, but the phenomena goes away as well, the psychokinetic manifestations. And then the other variable appears to be the environment, like in realty, location, which it appears that their bodies are sensitive to this force of nature. Their bodies act as sort of a biological operational amplifier and waveguide, a very unique antenna. They're absorbing it and they're re-radiating it. They're bumping it up a notch and then orienting it like a focal plane. And I don't think they're generating it. And if this is true, and I believe it is, I believe by back engineering this, by studying it with more depth and clarity, with better technology in the future, we can discover the nature of this force and put it to work. And what I mean by putting it to work is the force I'm describing could best be labeled as 0 point. It's ubiquitous. It might be anywhere. It might be everywhere. It might exist throughout the universe. Mm-hmm. It may have to do with dark energy and dark matter. No one knows. But it doesn't produce heat when it does work. Sometimes cold, but almost never heat. Although there is something called pyrokinesis, which is very rare, where things burst into flames spontaneously. Sure. But anyway, imagine if we could harness this. Instead of having power lines that transmit electricity from hydroelectric and geothermal and nuclear and coal and oil, gas, we don't need that anymore. Imagine every building has a black box, a little 0 point reactor that taps into this force, doesn't generate it. It taps into the force that's already there.
Okay.
And it uses it. So all the power you need is free. Well, not really free, because someone's got to build the box and install it and maintain it and monitor it, just like we have boxes now from monitoring and maintaining the energy we get. So it may be free energy, but we're going to pay for it. But the good thing is the Earth will cool down dramatically. Every car, every truck, every boat would have this black box instead of internal combustion engines. This could drive our vehicles free of heat, free of pollution, not even water being emitted.
Okay.
Because if there's too much water emitted, that'll hold more heat, and that could cause a problem in and of itself. And I believe that UFOs, whatever these things are, and I believe that some of them look like they're extraterrestrial, may use a force similar to this. We've had many cases, which I discuss in Section 2, Chapters 8 through 11, that began as alleged poltergeist outbreaks and then evolved into a close encounter of the third kind or an abduction, or began as a CE3 or an abduction and then have paranormal fallout in the case of a poltergeist manifestation. And I just got this weird feeling that imagine a craft. Let's say you want to go to New York. You're on the East Coast. I'm on the West. let's say instead of me talking to me on the phone, I want to pop over there. Well, it takes 5 hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, with this technology, we could have vehicles that fly at hypersonic speeds. There's no feeling of acceleration because it's a field propelling you as opposed to an asymmetric, which would be a rocket or a jet. No heat, no sonic boom, and you're combusting no chemicals to blow out the exhaust. The entire trip might take you 15 minutes. You can go anywhere on Earth in under an hour. This is not a pipe dream. This is not science fiction. This technology exists. There are people that know of this. Will it ever come to pass in our lifetime? Wouldn't bet on it. There's so much money wrapped up in keeping things the way they are that I don't think this is going to be an easy transition.
Okay, one name comes to mind as you discuss this: John Searle.
Oh yes, I know who John Searle is.
Yeah,
or was. I've read his work.
Did he pass away?
I don't know. No, I don't.
I don't think he has. I was hoping to have as a guest.
Yeah, he's not a young guy, but
I
never heard of him dying, passing away. But he built some kind of a disc vehicle, and it rotating electromagnetic fields, and it launched vertically, and I think one of them he lost completely.
Yeah.
But I know he had a lot of problems with the powers that be, like all these inventors. In the regard of building either a transatmospheric vehicle or a low Earth orbit, let's just stick with the Earth for the moment. In my book, in chapters 9, it's called "You Can't Get Here from There" or "How to Propel a UFO." And I go into extreme detail, which anyone will be able to understand. You don't need to have 10 years of physics behind you or a doctorate in it, of how to build a warp field engine. I think, which Gene was, Roddenberry was still alive, I think he would have really liked this, because this literally is a way to travel to the stars in real time. Mm-hmm. The problem is, even if we had the Enterprise in orbit right now with, its warp engines, warp cores charged, and we don't know where to go. We don't know anyone else's address. So where do we go? Just start running around looking for other sentient beings that want to sit down with a race of murderers and killers that could do nothing else than slaughter each other for hobbies.
Yeah, right. Sound a little like Stan Friedman.
Right.
Yeah.
But so that's one problem. And also, the power we're talking about that I discuss in detail, I believe is 0 point. I believe it is part of this force that we see with the paranormal.
Okay,
it's the same thing, but. Let's say you've got your Enterprise and you're charging.
Okay, well, actually, we have to wrap for a commercial break here, Barry. Sorry to interrupt. But we'll be right back with that paranormal theme here on Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno, CBS New Sky Radio. Stay with us.
CBS Radio's The New Sky. NewSkyRadio.com. Across the Veil with April Lugo.
Join April Lugo each Tuesday night at 7 for Across the Veil. Across the Veil is a show that promises to be a unique experience as April connects and communicates with those who are across the veil. April receives guidance and wisdom from the ancients, angels, masters, teachers, and guides, as well as hearing messages from those who have preceded us across the veil, family, friends, and loved ones alike. The program is an excellent opportunity for you to hear from those who are across the veil. April will be answering questions and giving insight. That's the main reason for the program. Across the Veil at 7 Tuesday on The Sky.
Look up to the sky. Psychic Radio is now CBS Radio's The Sky. Reach out. NewSkyRadio.com.
Been way offline, you fall into pieces. had a bad day, you take it one down, you sing a sad song just to turn it around. You say you don't know, you tell me don't lie, you work at a smile and you go for a ride. You had a bad day, the camera don't lie, you're coming back down and you really don't mind. You had a bad day, you had a bad day. Well, you need a blue sky holiday. The point is they laugh at what you say, and I don't need no caring home. So where was the passion when you needed the most? Oh, you and I, you kick up the leaves and the magic is lost. 'Cause you had a bad day, you take it one down, you sing a sad song just to turn it around. You say you don't know, you tell me don't lie, you work at a smile and you go for a ride. You had a bad day, you see what you like, and how does it feel? One more time, you had a bad day, you had a bad day.
Psychic Radio is now CBS Radio's The Sky. Back to Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno. Call now 248-545-SOUL. New skyradio.com.
And we are indeed back with our good friend and our marvelous guest this evening, Dr. Barry Taff, well-known parapsychologist, and perhaps I might even say futurist, as far as his thought is going tonight and the matters that we're discussing. We're discussing, of course, how the paranormal might carry us into the future. And I'm going to let you finish your thought that we were interrupted by the break, then I had something I want to throw at you to get your
Sure.
response.
Where did I end off? I kind of...
Well, you're talking about the technology that could be gleaned from paranormal phenomena.
Right.
Should it be harnessed and it could free
Right.
energy for?
Basically, it's real simple. Imagine cars with what we call tractionless propulsion, more like Star Wars, where they're hovercraft. Instead of running on tires that burn out in wheels with conventional, disc brakes, it's a hovercraft where you're able to repel away from the Earth. Transportation of people and cargo anywhere on Earth in a matter of minutes, without heat, without waste, without burning up our atmosphere and polluting it. It also very likely may improve medicine dramatically, because we learn this force could be in one of the elements that deals with consciousness itself. And I got a funny feeling that we're going to discover that reality is very different than we assumed it was. I think it is.
Yep.
In the book, I go into, in the last section specifically, there's good evidence that consciousness may work like a hologram, that space and time may work like a hologram, and that our brains may, in many respects, work holographically. And the best way to describe this is, if you take a normal photo, 8 by 10, you cut it in half, cut it in a quarter, you get 1/2 or 1/4. We understand that. Take a hologram, you cut it in half, cut it in a quarter, cut it in an eighth, cut it in a 16th. Each piece will recreate the whole if illuminated properly, but the aperture grows smaller, the resolution diminishes. This is called equally distributed information, the way holograms are made. But this is very possibly the way our brains work in many respects, memory and retrieval of information. And some recent discoveries bring this to light. They know that short-term memory exists in the brain, but the best neurophysiological research data in the last 20 years indicates long-term memory may not reside in the brain.
Oh, no, absolutely. Non-locality of consciousness.
So in other words, when we're accessing things from the past or the future or things at a distance, it's all the same. At this level of reality, there may not be space, there may not be time. The past information still exists. It's still there. We can access it. The future's information already exists, and information at a distance is available if you're able to access that node, that point of information. Again, if you've got a radio and you don't know, there's no dial, there's no tuner, and you can't tell what you're listening to, you get a lot of noise.
Yeah.
It may be that, but this brings up another aspect. Well, if the past information still being there, that's cool. We can deal with that. We can see the past and maybe eventually be able to visualize it in an electromechanical way, like a television.
Mm-hmm.
But if the future's information is already there, well, does that mean we have any free will, or does it mean everything's predetermined and predestined? And I discuss this at great length in the book. And one of the side benefits of building warp drive, a warp field engine, beside moving through space faster than light, like Star Trek, you may be able to travel in time, but it wouldn't be like the movies.
Okay. Now, let me stop you there so we can get... I just wanted to get a... Does that answer your question? Do you have anything further on that?
No. That pretty much answers everything.
All right, let me throw this at you. Okay.
Sure.
Now, in our experience with... Well, I shouldn't say our... Ben has not run into a poltergeist yet, but in my experience with poltergeists, I've come to many of the same suspicions that would lead into what you've said. One can't help but, having, standing there with a bunch of cops and watching a refrigerator pick itself up, you want to, but some tremendous, force here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I never got the impression that entities were actually doing this, except on rare occasions. It seemed as though when things would occur psychokinetically, things moving without apparent physical means, that entities weren't even present sometimes. And so there we have what is commonly known, at least in my day, as the Hutchison effect. Well, my day, you and I are about the same vintage, so we probably know the same terms. And so it may be something like the Hutchison effect that you're talking about harnessing. However, let me just throw this at you. In all my work, and I've been working 40 years now, so maybe you've been working 1 year longer than me.
Mm-hmm.
What's
the year between friends?
Yeah, exactly. My academic background, I come at it, which is philosophy, theology, and psychology. I come at it a little bit from the paranormal from a little bit different point of view, sort of a non-technical one. And the question here is that the multiverse, as the multiple worlds theory, is one that I've settled on as is explaining what I've experienced. That's my personal opinion. Ben works on that. The physicists who believe that, and even fewer who believe it in the way I believe it, say that in these different worlds, the laws of physics can be very different from one another. And so the essence of the question here is, how do you harness power that perhaps is the result of an interaction of worlds with, or from an entirely different world, or worlds with entirely different physics? How do you even begin to approach?
Well, in the book, I go into this not exhaustive.
Oh, my apologies. That when your book arrived, it had to be given away in our
podcast. Yeah, you mentioned that to me earlier.
Yeah, so my apologies.
I don't want to. It would ruin the book to discuss this in detail. But let me say this: we know how to do it. We know what to do, how to do it. The problem is the money. It's going to have to be a national effort. It would be on the level of the Manhattan Project. But again, this is not, well, of course it could be used for war. Like in Star Trek and the movies and TV shows, if a warp engine explodes, it's pretty bad. To give you an example, we're talking about here, kind of the potential power that's available here. Okay, antimatter, if you have 1 kilogram, 2.2 pounds of antimatter, and you completely annihilate it, that releases enough energy to lay waste to the entire North American continent and blow the atmosphere of it off into space. That's 2.2 pounds. We're talking about antimatter, it's got from 100 to a couple thousand kilograms of it. We're talking a level of power that dwarfs anything we know of other than a black hole or a supernova. Do you think that we, meaning the human race, has enough wisdom to use this correctly or safely? I don't either. You're leading right into my next question. And maybe that's why we're not traveling amongst the stars. Maybe we're not supposed to do that now.
Maybe not. Well,
we can't solve all of our problems here on this little blue ball, which is turning, I guess, more gray and brown over time. I don't know. I'm somewhat skeptical. I think everybody wants the same thing. They want to live comfortably. They want to be healthy. They want to raise a family. They want to sleep in a warm bed. They want to be able to eat and be comfortable. It's a human condition, and I think this is available. And I think parapsychology, the science of it, can open these doors. Because if you look back, this stuff started in 1882. In the United Kingdom, London, and so they saw evidence of this. And the minute anyone brought up the implications of the changes it could imply, everyone backs away. See, if you say that, well, you can see things with your mind in the past, the future, the distance, who cares? But if you say you're talking to a dead person, they go, oh, that's cool. Then, I'll put you on the show. But don't tell me when you're accessing holographic information. Who cares?
Yeah.
The L.A. Times interviewed me years ago about this when channeling got big in the 80s. And I told him what we're speaking of now, the writer. He goes, well, that's boring. No one wants to hear that. I go, but it's true. Well, I don't care. No one wants to hear that you're able to access time and space through your mind. Who cares?
I think it's far more exciting than the nonsense, Okay, well, let me hit you with this.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'm sorry. All right. And again, as I said during the break, my formal education is very different, and I come at the paranormal from a different point of view. Okay,
right.
It seems to me that the paranormal can definitely and should definitely lead us into the future, but in my opinion, from another perspective, I think we are drunk with technology. This entire society, and everything you say is very exciting, and I agree with it 100%. However, I wonder if we shouldn't be looking to the paranormal from another point of view. And here's what I mean. I am amazed at the assumptions that we of the Western mind just don't even question when it comes to our approach to anything, never mind the paranormal. One of these assumptions is that, we have, say we have visitors from outer space or from wherever or whenever or whatever they're doing. They are more advanced than we are. Why? Because they have more technology. They have more gadgets by which to control or whatever
manipulate reality they're liking,
or the illusion of control. And my question is, I'm excited about the paranormal because I think it can lead us to wisdom and an understanding of what we are inside before it does anything for us outside. And I think that unless we have the insights the paranormal can provide about who we are, what we are, where we're going, where we've been, who our neighbors might be, what the nature of reality is, then we can't handle anything you're discussing. Maybe you agree.
Yes and no.
Okay.
In the book, I talk about this.
All right.
And what if we discovered that we have an inconceivable past and an unbelievable future? What if the human race discovered absolutely that we were genetically engineered by another race of beings maybe about 500,000 years ago, that hominids were never here. They never evolved to the level right now. They were smaller brain cases, didn't have the tool-making capability. Something came here, someone from wherever, and what they did is they played with us, and the result are humans, different types, different colors, but we're all human. And what if there's evidence to this effect? My book discusses the evidence. I'm not talking about Eric von Däniken stuff. I'm talking about clinical evidence that's come forward the public doesn't know about yet.
Yeah.
And in my book, I discussed, there was a picture in Omni magazine in 1980 of something called the dinosauroid. And it's what researchers think dinosaurs would have evolved into had they not been rendered extinct by the asteroid impact.
Okay, makes me think of reptilians.
And what's interesting is the image just showed that dinosauroid model looks almost identical to what people described during abduction scenarios. And they were describing this long before that model was made. So are we looking at a race of beings that come from a distant star system and they evolved differently than us? They came from a reptilian root as opposed to hominids. And you think that if we can't get along between red and yellow and brown and black and white, you think throwing gray in the mix or green in the mix would help? I don't.
You're right.
And you think if suddenly we have crazy people go screaming in the name of their God as they run into wars wherever they may be on the earth because you're saying something they don't like, you have the wrong religion or the right religion, they're angry.
Well, you're right.
That
At
how
that
would
point,
they
we have
react
we
to
have
this
another break,
information?
I'm afraid. Yeah, well, absolutely right, Barry. We're going to take another break, I'm afraid. We'll be right back behind Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno and with our guest, Barry Taff. Stay with us.
CBS Radio's The New Sky. NewSkyRadio.com. This is the Lisa J. Smith Show.
So you say you want to be a rock star, so why don't you go ahead and be one? This is Lisa J. Smith. You can listen to me every day at 3 o'clock Eastern. Lisa J. Now, right here at CBS Radio, The Sky.
Look up to the sky. Psychic Radio is now CBS Radio's The Sky. Reach out. NewSkyRadio.com.
She doesn't own a dress. Her hair is always a mess. If you catch her stealing, she won't confess. She's beautiful. Smokes a pack a day. You can wait, that's me. But anyway, she doesn't care a thing about that. Hey, she thinks I'm beautiful. Meet Virginia. She never compromises, loves babies and surprises, wears high heels when she exercises. Ain't that beautiful? Meet Virginia. Well, she wants to be the queen, and she thinks about her scene. Pulls her Mama works on carburetors. My brother is a fine mediator for the president. Well, here she is again on the phone, just like me, hates to be alone. We just like to sit at home and rip on the president. Meet Virginia. Well, she wants to live her life, and she thinks about her life. Pulls her hair back as she screams, I don't really want to live this life. Well, she wants to be the queen, and she thinks about her scenes. Well, she wants to live her life, and she thinks about her life. Pulls her hair back as she screams, I don't really want to be the queen. I don't really want to be the queen. I don't really want to be the queen.
Psychic Radio is now CBS Radio's The Sky. Back to Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno. Call now 248-545-SOUL. NewSkyRadio.com. Believe.
And here we are with a good friend, Dr. Barry Taff. We're talking about a number of absolutely fascinating things tonight having to do with his new book, and we're going to talk about that in detail as we go. But we were just finishing a discussion here on. I had just sort of thrown out the idea that I think it's more important to use the paranormal to get some wisdom before we use it to build up our technology. But again, who knows? So, Barry, please go ahead and finish your thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, here it comes down to this: if you're going to be able to tap into power that dwarfs thermonuclear power, and if not controlled or I guess governed, could lay waste to the entire planet, if not the planet and the moon. It would be like a supernova going off at that kind of power level. We have trouble governing what we have. I mean, it's just we're not good controllers of the technology. But see, here's the catch-22. if one doesn't know how the world around them works, how can they know how it doesn't work? Before we can assume something is paranormal, we must know what isn't paranormal. I mean, it's simple. You asked, and I'm not trying this to sound like an egomaniac or whatever, real simple things. Talk to the average person. Ask them why the sky is blue. I'll bet you 9 out of 10 won't know why. Maybe 10 out of 10 won't know why. Okay, ask them, of the atmosphere we breathe, what is the primary gas? And most people would go oxygen. Of course, they'd be wrong. So, you know, just simple things, but no one has a need to know these things. I mean, we all use a car. We all use a telephone. We all use a computer and a cell phone. Very few people know how they work. These are essentials of the living condition. I mean, we all eat and sleep and go to the bathroom and have families and, you know, get sick and get old and we all die. None of us, most people have no knowledge of the way anything works. We better learn more about ourselves before we start learning more about all of ourselves. This could be the most dramatic shift in the human condition since the Industrial Revolution.
Oh, yeah,
and it's all discussed in my book. All this stuff, I go into great detail of how to build a warp field engine, how to build a time machine based on what we know and the evidence, and what the limitations would be and what the problems would be with it. So I'm not just talking science fiction. I'm talking science based on what we know, and the materials we need are available.
Yep, aliens above, ghosts below. Okay. First, Ben's got a question here
Sure.
Before we get into some emails.
All right. How can progress be made toward paranormal technology when 120 years of research hasn't been able to convince mainstream science that the paranormal is real?
Well, see, the problem has been, instead of trying to prove something's happening, you have to produce enough information to replicate it, and then the evidence. In other words, how many coincidences make a fact? There's, you know, in the probability. So let's say you're doing an experiment in remote viewing or precognition or out of body, and you collect data. Well, how many coincidences make a fact? In my book, I talk about the problems where we had one instance where I go into this in detail. We got sick of the real-time remote viewing stuff, so we wanted to do a precognitive remote viewing. And so we decided to see who would be attending the first group on the next week when we had time. So we did our thing, and the results were so bizarre when they turned out to be very accurate. You look at what's the probability, and I don't want to tell the story because I guarantee people will. It's fascinating. They'll love it. It's funny. It's amazing. And a lot of our people got so upset by this, they walked away from our work. I don't like this because, well, that means it's already there. Otherwise, you couldn't see it. I go, I know, that's the problem. See, it's like if you try, in other words, let's say a car just ran you over. God forbid you're hit by a car. I don't believe in cars, but it just ran you over. I don't care. I don't believe in a car. But it just ran you over. Yeah. I didn't see it. So I guess something, maybe a camel hit, maybe a horse hit me, maybe, a big metal ball came out of it. You know, before people knew what meteorites were, they didn't believe in that either. Before they discovered the gorilla, they didn't know. We go through changes and evolution as we evolve. 2,000 years ago, if a person was seen being picked up in the shaft of light to a round silver cloud that was glowing, that was called an ascension. If it happens today, we call it an abduction.
That's right.
Is there any difference?
Yeah.
There may not be.
Yep.
Every phenomena described today in paranormal literature, parapsychological research literature, going back 128 years, is also described in biblical text and pre-biblical text.
Oh, sure
This stuff isn't new.
No.
It's just been going on since the dawn of human civilization.
I'm ready to explode here because I wish we had more time because you're getting into some absolutely fascinating subjects, but I wanted to get into one or two emails people wrote in to you before we don't have a chance to do it. Now we have two here from Peter. Peter is a faithful listener in Colombia, South America, and he this is for Dr. Taff. Read the San Pedro case. Now you mentioned that case in the beginning. Here's the note. You have mentioned a strange liquid later identified as human blood plasma dripping from the San Pedro house walls. No one seems to ask the obvious question, how do you explain that? What is your theory or thoughts? I imagine the idea of a corpse inside the walls was ruled out.
We did our best. Well, first of all, we did a forensic examination of the liquid, of that viscous liquid. It was a human blood plasma. It was male from male. It had a high copper and iodine content. There was no body in the wall. What's intriguing, the woman moved, as you'll read about. It's in Chapter 3, called The Hazardous Haunting. She moved the phenomena moved with her, but it still stayed in the original location.
Really?
Meaning new people coming in there, they began having their own experiences, similar but not identical to Jackie's, and yet it still stayed with Jackie. And this begs the question, what is going on? How could it be there and yet not be there? Well, it's like a contagion. There seem to be biological aspects to this where if you're susceptible to it, it infects you, for lack of a better term. You carry it with you, you re-radiate it from the source, and it bleeds off and it's gone. And, you know, the owner of the property, not that, but he doesn't live in the bungalow, he lives in the forward home, very large, beautiful home. He said tenants come and go there like you wouldn't believe. Of course, it's a very unstable area of San Pedro. It's high transition rate. A lot of people move in, they can't afford the rent, they leave, but a lot of the people describe the same types of phenomena. We had not been able to get back in there with instruments because of, you know, he doesn't want to attract more attention to the area that.
Oh, exactly. I dread cases in multifamily housing because you're a PR nightmare for them.
Right. So, but it's as far as explaining where the blood plasma came from, I don't know. I mean, it's no more explainable than what threw Jeff into the wall. What tried to hang him in the attic, what threw him in the wall up in Weldon when she moved from San Pedro up to Weldon, which is in Bakersfield area. I mean, that's where he was attacked and he almost died. Yeah. And you know, that was enough to drive him away. At that point, he walked away from us completely. We didn't hear from him much till about 2 years ago.
Have you ever been injured in a poltergeist case?
Yes. In fact, in the introduction called The Haunting Thought, 1970, I believe it was, or 71, near the Forum here in Inglewood. And I don't want to give too much of the story away, but this is the stuff nightmares are made of. Mm-hmm. You know, whatever it was almost killed me. If it wasn't for the other people there, I would have probably died. Yeah. Someone attacked me. It was an apparition. It was not with us at the group. Yeah. And since then, different families have lived in the home. White families, black families, Hispanic families, Asian families, and they've all lived independently of us. None of them knowing what preceded them there have had similar types of experience. So, again, and I'd love to go back there with instruments. Given its location, I'd be more frightened of flying lead than of ghosts. Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, I've been injured on several occasions, but as a matter of fact, we in the Bridgeport house in 1974, I witnessed what I suppose could have been, as you mentioned, what was commonly known as spontaneous human combustion. I mean, Lorraine Warren I watched as a second-degree burn appeared on her hand in the presence of a police officer and the rest of the family. And Ed wanted her out of there, but she wouldn't go, of course. But about 12 years ago, I was on a case with Barry Conrad, my ex-colleague in L.A. at Hollywood, and I had a in my finger, and it was gold. And it started to burn so badly, it actually started to scald my skin. I had to take it off. Wow. Now, remember, gold is a really good conductor. Mm-hmm. So what was causing it to heat up? Energy? Yeah. From where? Mm-hmm. And, you know, we didn't have any real experiences other than my hand getting burned. But, I mean, my skin was scalded under the ring. Okay. And, again, it's, you know, well, we got to wrap for another break, I'm sorry to say. Okay, right back with Dr. Barry Taff on Behind the Paranormal, CBS New Sky Radio, newskyradio.com. Stay with us. We're going to do another email and talk about his own psychic abilities.
Psychic Radio. PsychicOnAir.com. The Wake Up Call with Ellen Tom.
But so you're the first kid on the block and you can prove it. Because there's similar prototypes, but nothing quite as good as yours. Yes. Yours has more than one application.
Yes, my God, you're brilliant.
Hi, it's Tom Force. Reverend L. Newman and I are here Monday nights, 7 till 9, prime time, Eastern time in the United States, with Wake Up Call on Psychic Radio.
Psychic Radio. We know you're listening. Life is a journey. Let us be your guide. Reach out on the net now, psychiconair.com.
Look for Psychic Radio on your AOL radio player.
You see how people look down.
Radio is now CBS Radio's The Sky. Back to Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno. Call now 248-545-SOUL. New skyradio.com.
Okay, we're into our last section here, I'm sorry to say. We got Dr. Barry Taff having a fascinating discussion here about the paranormal in the future and a few other related topics. I wanted to get Dr. Taff here to one more email from Peter in Colombia, South America, one of our faithful listeners here, and he says, in your investigations of alien abductions, have you uncovered any details about the aliens which are not generally known? And there's more.
No, not really. The only thing I could say that I believe to be factual is we're dealing with a race of beings, there may be more than one, from different systems, that they're definitely, like as us, they're curious. And like us, they're not all knowing. They're not gods. They seem to be using us for an agenda or motive we don't understand yet. But it appears they may know things about our future we don't. And I mean, they take a thought about the hybridization where they mix our DNA with others, produce hybrids. You know, I mean, if that's true, and of course it might be, we don't know for sure. It suggests that they're either going to populate another planet, another star system with beings similar but not identical to us, or they're going to replace us once we're gone.
Yeah.
And that's supposition and speculation at best. It's Kentucky windage. But the one thing is that over the course of time, when people have allegedly been on board UFOs, their images of what they saw vary depending on where they were in our technical evolution. Many decades ago, they saw simple dials. Then they saw potentiometers, like sliding potentiometers, and then they saw digital things, and now they see 3D images like we see in science fiction. So the question is, we can't trust what we perceive in these situations because we're being manipulated and we don't know what's going on. I mean, the very first abduction case in modern times was not Barney and Betty Hill in 1961 in New Hampshire. It was in 1957 in Brazil by a man named Antonio Villas-Boas. And it was an extraordinary case that most shows don't touch upon because it didn't happen here. Mm-hmm. Things happen everywhere. And I wouldn't be surprised if there are abduction cases going back long into history, but no one had the ability to deal with them, so they just ignored them.
Yeah,
so
true.
But the question is, what is it where there's this bridge, this link, this correlation between the paranormal and ufology? Why do these things have a common ground? And my feeling is, and I discuss this in the book, in the third section and the second section as well, in multiple chapters, that they may be using paranormal forces the way we use electromagnetism. Mm-hmm. That, remember, the energy that runs our world is primarily electromagnetic.
That's right.
Everything works the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever these, back in 1952 in the summer, there were separate weekends. There were flyovers of a fleet of UFOs over the Capitol building, and they had photographs of them, and jets chased them. They were traveling up to 9,000 miles per hour in the atmosphere. We had nothing that flew that quickly.
Nope.
Well, the V-2 did, but, they went up and it came right down. They didn't fly horizontally. They went up. They were ballistic.
That's it.
So,
well, just not to interrupt. This is incredibly fascinating. But Ben has the rest of the question here.
Sure. Right.
From Peter. So.
All right. So the rest of the question goes as: do your cases include aliens communicating with the abductee? And if so, what is said?
It's sort of standard, standard operating procedure. This is discussed in the book. That people are told, don't be frightened. We're not going to harm you. Just let us do what we want to do. No one in our cases have been shown horrific images of the future to gauge their response. The placed memories, the memories that are put in people's heads to judge their responses. We haven't had that. The way I establish the credibility of an abduction case is the amount of panic, fear, and trauma there is related to it. If people go, oh, boy, I can't wait for this to happen again. Oh, well, maybe they'll take me to dinner. Right.
Yeah.
If it's the people who were really unsettled and upset and it screws their life up, and in chapter 10, a girl I could have married in 1977 was abducted while we were together. They took her, they didn't take me. Had that event not happened, and we obviously can't prove or disprove what it was, but the evidence suggests that it did, and there's evidence I didn't put in the book to see if anyone comes up and corroborate it.
Boy, I'm afraid we're just flat out of time, Barry, but absolutely amazing stuff. The book is Aliens Above, Ghosts Below, Explorations of the Unknown. Released, was it in June?
We released actually in May.
In May. Cosmic Pantheon Press, cosmicpantheon.com. Dr. Barry Taff, it's always a great pleasure and an honor to have you with us. I'll have you back real soon. As soon as I read the book. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Right, thank you very much. Right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Okay, everybody. Dr. Barry Taff, wonderful friend and guest. Ben's a little tired here. You spent the day at the Newport Jazz Festival, big thing here in Rhode Island. How was it?
Well, I got sunburned.
And your nose is red.
And the food was, well, I didn't purchase anything because I didn't have any cash, but it was pretty good. Except, I don't know, there's little to no shade because it's an old fort, and not like they left like trees standing up when they were constructing it. But, yeah, all in all, it's pretty good.
Well, that's good. No, it shows that we need higher pay for our poor old radio talk show jockeys, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, well, all right, we're coming down to the end of the show here, I'm sorry to say. And let's just sum things up here. Wanted to just announce, if anybody is listening in the vicinity of New England here, I'm sure people are listening, plenty of residents of New England listen to the show. We have on August 20th and 21st, and I'm looking for the announcement here. We have an event that Ben and I are going to be headliners at, if you want to call it that. It's a charity event for the benefit of the Methuen, Massachusetts Historical Society. And it is Friday and Saturday, August 20th, 21st, from 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. at the haunted Tenney Gatehouse in Methuen. The information is, online at nightfallparanormal.com, nightfallparanormal.com, and check it out and come and meet us. We won't be broadcasting, but we'll be doing a program, and we hope to see you there. It is for a charity event that will benefit the Methuen Historical Society, and that's a good cause. Okay, so many thanks to our producer, and it's our dear old friend Will Kosnick, and we'll see you next week, Sunday, August 15th, right here on CBS New Sky Radio, newskyradio.com, and we'll welcome animal communicator and healer Mary Marshall.
And check out our website at www.behindtheparanormal.com for a free podcast of all our shows, along with show schedules and guest information at www.behindtheparanormal.com.
On our regular Monday evening drive time show in the Boston, Worcester, Providence area tomorrow, we'll be taking the hour to talk about more cases of the extreme paranormal, including a new alleged sighting of the Virgin Mary. And in the meantime, we'll leave you with a word from the great English poet and essayist Joseph Addison. I think a person who is terrified with the imagination of ghosts and specters must much more reasonable than one who, contrary to the reports of all historians, sacred and profane, ancient and modern, and to the tradition of all nations, thinks the appearances of spirits fabulous and groundless.
See you next week.